Hello everyone. Today we're going to talk about chapter 14, which is about sampling in qualitative and quantitative research. We've finished with the main design of qualitative and the main design of quantitative core elements in writing research, and we have one element left, which is sampling, and I'm going to include this in our writing proposal document where I put the steps. So I'm going to show you where the sampling goes in the steps. I'm going to include this under this week's, and so you can access it and find where the sampling should be. We have a lot of different kinds in sampling. We're going to discuss this intensively in qualitative and in quantitative, the different types of sampling. But first we'll need to understand what is the meaning of sampling. So what is a sample? We have probability sampling and non-probability sampling. The probability sampling, more of the randomized sampling, and the non-probability sampling is more of a purposeful. If you think about the meaning of probability, then it is random, whereas in a non-probability, then I'm sure, then it's purposeful. In both, it means a sample. It means that I want to have a group of representatives, either people or settings, a group of representatives that represent my topic. In the probability will represent the majority of the people I want to talk about or the settings that I want to talk about. In a non-probability, the likelihood of completely 100% representing everyone I want to talk about is less than in a probability. So we have a group of people or we have a group of settings that I want to sample out of. And I need to understand that in probability I should really sample everyone, randomly select, so that I will make sure that I'm covering everyone. But in a non-probability or in a purposeful, I don't need to sample every single person in order to cover my questions, because I'm focusing on this specific group. So when I say probability and random, I'm hoping that the word random sampling comes to your mind in connection with quantitative. And when I say non-probability, then it comes to your mind with this purposeful sampling. It's more of a qualitative. We're going to talk about this in detail. So first and foremost, I want to make sure that you understand what is the meaning of sample, and then sample really applies to a setting or people. So you're sampling from schools and you're sampling people, participants, okay? Both are considered important participants or samples for your research, the setting and the people. Now let's look at quant and qual. For quantitative researchers, in order to understand how they reach the idea of the best sampling way, we have to understand how do quantitative researchers think. What do they really worry about? In quantitative, the researcher really worries about wanting to know cause and effect. I want to understand why is this happening. So I want to spend more time measuring things in order to come to reasons. And I want to generalize this in order to come with a final result and a solution in order for people to be able to repeat the findings. So if you think about it, I want causes, I want to measure, I want to generalize my results, and I want people to be able to replicate my research. Hence, if a researcher thinks this way, then coming to a conclusion of what is a sampling will stem in that sequence. I want to generalize my results, so I want generalizable population, which means that in order to be able to say safely that this result is general, then I'm just not going to be any sort of a bias. I'm going to think of randomly selecting from this population and then compare the results of all of this random population and then come with a resolution. So yeah, it seems like probability sampling is the best approach, which means that I need to randomly select. Now, when you think about qualitative researchers and how you think, you find a complete different pattern of thinking. The qualitative researcher does not want to figure out why. He just wants to understand. So understanding through the lens of this person, this setting, this group of people. I want to know what they feel or see or perceive, and I want to understand it more, and I want to explore that and tell people in details about it in order to make a change, a social change, or bridge a gap, find common understanding for the greater good, and people can take from that research and maybe extend more into it, not replicate, but extend more into it to find the change. It's a journey towards finding the change and towards understanding. Now, for a person who thinks like this, do you think they want to randomly? Do they believe in randomly selecting? No, they believe that social facts are not the same. Things are changeable. So I'm not expecting people to to be generalized in perspective, because people are different and they think differently and behaviors actually change. So randomizing is really irrelevant. Probability sample is expensive for a researcher. If I want to understand every single person's perspective, then it's going to be, in order to generalize it, which is again irrelevant, then it will be very expensive to look at all of the layers of the society. So non-probability sampling or purposeful sampling seems appropriate in this sense. I want to know about this group of people. I want to know, what do you guys think? I want to listen to you. I want to describe and explore in detail what you think about. So I'm purposefully sampling you. So from that, it seems like there are two kinds of samples or sampling methods. One is a probability sample, which is related to random sampling, and random sampling goes directly to quantitative research. And the other kind or method is non-probability sampling or purposeful sampling, and it relates to the qualitative research. Each one has, probability has simple, systematic, stratified, and cluster sampling. And non-probability has convenience, snowball, coda, and judgment or theoretical sampling. Now, the way you're going to state it, when you talk about your sample, you're going to say, my sample is simple random probability simple random probability sampling for, and then you describe why or how. Or my sample is convenient non-probability purposeful sampling or non-probability sampling. Okay, so we want to our mission here is to learn about each one of these. I know that it might seem scary in a minute, but if you listen carefully, I have very simple slides for you that will help you. Once you look at the word, it will make sense to you and you'll understand it and it will come simultaneous. So bear with me and let's go through the slides. We'll start with probability sampling, or quantitative probability sampling. The first type is simple random sample. From the word itself, it says simple and it's random. So I'm simply selecting my participants. So if I have 3 classrooms, okay, I am going to simply randomly select from these classrooms, these 2 students here, I'll take here these students, and I'll take here these students, okay? So I'm generating random numbers from a group of people, and I'm selecting them. However, I just want you to make sure that you are very careful when you select randomly from groups. You want to make sure that you're not systematically excluding or including or repeating specific samples. So, for example, I randomly select 2 from here, 2 from here, 2 from here, and you notice that, oh, it seems like the majority are girls. So you're systematically actually sampling, not randomly sampling. So you just want to make sure that all of your group is really, truly random. So simply select, but make sure that you're completely random. Okay? So simple random sampling, from the word simple, you're just simply selecting. Just make sure that you're not making a systematic error. Now, systematic random. We just talked about systematic random, then it means that I am really following a specific system, right? So, for example, if you, here I have an example here for you, and I have this picture, another example here for you. So, if you sit in a corner and you are going to systematically select, you're going to say, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to watch people. Every 4th person is going to be my sample. So that's a way of selecting people. Just make sure that you're not, again, falling into the trap of, okay, every 4th person is a senior, or every 4th person is rich, or every 4th person is African American. Just want to make sure that you are random, but you're following a specific system. You can say, okay, I'm going to select based on odd numbers. So every odd number person, I'm going to select him or her. Or you can say, I'm going to select every other person in a list. Or I'm going to select, if I have a list, I'm going to select counting by 3, following this example. So you're following a system in randomly selecting your participants. Okay, makes sense? So in the simple random, you have no system, you don't have a specific idea, you're just simply selecting randomly from a group of people. In systematic random sampling, you're systematically following a system to randomly select. Okay? Now, stratified random sampling. From the word stratified, it refers to strata, and strata means, in Latin, means layers. Okay, so stratified random sampling, it means that you have layered your samples and then you randomly select from them. You layer your samples and then you randomly select from them. Stratified random sampling. Now, how can you layer your samples? If you really want to make sure that you want good random sampling of females and males, so you're going to stratify your population into males, females, then randomly select from these participants. Or you want to make sure that you have from all ethnic backgrounds. So you're going to stratify them first or layer them: Caucasian, African American, Hispanic American, and then you're going to randomly select from each layer. Okay, so stratified random sampling means you're layering and grouping, or not grouping, layering, having a specific strata, and then you randomly select from each layer. Okay. Oh, here, there was an example here. If your sampling frame is sorted by, say, school district, then you are able to do this method. So your strata is the school districts, and then you're randomly selecting from the school districts. That's another way of stratification. The next, or the last, the fourth sampling kind under probability is cluster and multi-stage sampling. So you're get a list of clusters, example, departments within your school. Okay, I have lots of clusters, so I want to have this list of clusters. Physics department, math department, English department, PE department. Okay, these are your clusters. You have a lot of clusters or branches. Okay, now I'm going to randomly select from these clusters, from that list of clusters. So say, for example, I'm going to have 3 departments, and then from that, so it's a step. You have all these clusters. You picked randomly from these clusters a couple or 3 clusters. So say, for example, I had 10 departments and I picked 3 departments, and from these clusters or departments I'm going to randomly select people. Okay, and the picture here shows these are the clusters, and you're going to pick from the clusters, randomly select from the clusters. And this is only an example. The departments is only an example, but you can think about it in different perspectives and however manner your research is going. If you're looking at settings, or if you're looking at people, once you find yourself in front of a lot of clusters in front of you, then that's a cluster sampling. Then I need to select from these clusters and then randomly select from inside the clusters. Okay, so this finalizes my my probability sampling. So clusters, stratified, systematic, and simple. Simple, it's simple. Systematic, you're following a system. Stratified, you layer, then randomly select. I apologize. And cluster means you're clustering and then randomly selecting from clusters. Now let's look at non-probability or qualitative research. The first kind is convenience sampling. From the word convenience, I want convenience. So, and convenience here means either accessibility convenience. So if you're a researcher, teacher who works at a school and you want to conveniently sample the teachers in your school that you're located at, then that's mean that this is straightforward convenience sampling. You're conveniently choosing the school and you're conveniently choosing the teachers because of accessibility reasons, and also I apologize, and easily getting access to them. Okay, so we understand now convenience sampling. The next is snowball. Snowball, from the word itself, it gives you this idea of the effect. Okay, you reach out to a couple or 3 people that you were able to access or find or negotiate with to agree to participate in your research, and then you might want to ask them to recruit for you other participants by word of mouth. And this picture really gives it away. Snowball is mainly one participant is leading to the other. You don't find them right away, but by referral or recommendation, other participants are going to join. Okay, that's number 2. And then number 3 is coda sampling. So if your research is really looking for specific things, so if you are looking for age group, you're concerned about age group, so you want to state a coda of, I want 5 from 11 to 12 years old. I want 6, 2 to 3, 22 to 31 years old. Or you can state a quota of, I want 10 females and 10 males. You're specifically looking for a specific quota or number to represent your individuals or your picked participants. You can say, I want to cover 10 participants. 3 of them should be in early ages, and the other 3 are middle ages, and then the other 3 are older or veteran ages. This is just an example. So however you want to specify a quota, then this means that you are following quota sampling. And then the last kind of non-probability qualitative sampling is theoretical or judgmental sampling. From the word judgmental or theoretical, it means that you have a specific perspective, a specific theory, a strong judgment, and you want to pick your participants, either schools or people, based on this theory. You want to make sure that you are true to your questions. I had an idea when I was going to Egypt, for example. I wanted to make sure that the teachers are really from Middle Eastern background, because I want to study Middle Eastern studies. But my theory is that strong culture affects the perspective on multiple intelligences. So I had this judgment, so I wanted people with fundamental Egyptian culture. They belong to that specific culture. I didn't want anyone that is more modernized. I didn't want people who are educated in the West. I didn't want people who have dual culture or bilingual. I wanted them pure and true to the Egyptian culture. So this way, it's more of a theoretical, purposeful sampling, because I was following a specific theory. Now, also, theoretical or judgmental sampling affects the process, not only in picking and the participants, either setting or people, but also it affects the process It is very interactive. You have your research questions and you decide on your sample. Then you start the data collection, first one. You stop and then you analyze. And then you feel that something, excuse me, and then you feel that something is missing. So you go back and add more data collection. You can add another tool, for example, or you can continue with the tools that you stated. But you really, because you didn't reach what you want, you decided to do another set of data collection. So you start the data collection. You're after your theory, remember? You start another data collection, then you do your analysis, and you're still not quite there to get to your theory or the purpose of your research. So you start another round of data collection. Maybe finally you get at the number 3 of data analysis, you get to that saturation. And that's the most important word for qualitative researchers. Okay, now I feel that I've got everything. There is nothing more that I can find to help me answering the theoretical. So I'm just going to stop there because I have what I want. That's the ultimate goal. All right, so these are the 4 kinds of qualitative non-probability sampling. Theoretical means of following a theory, so I'm picking my samples that will serve my theory, and then I'm doing my data collection and data analysis to really purposefully follow my theory. And this is very grounded theory, by the way. So this process is grounded theory, and theoretical sampling is connected to grounded theory. So if you pick your research to be grounded theory, then I'm expecting that your sampling will be theoretical sampling as well, because in grounded theory, it's all about this theory that I am trying to reach and find out. So theoretical sampling, quota sampling, which means I'm following a specific quota number. Snowball, one participant is referring the other. And convenient or convenience sampling, because they're convenient. So if we go back to this picture, we know now that there are 2 kinds: probability sampling for quantitative and non-probability sampling for qualitative. In probability sampling, we have simple random sampling, we have systematic, following a system, we have stratified, layered random sampling, and we have clustered random sampling. In non-probability, we have convenience sampling, we have snowball sampling, quota sampling, and judgment or theoretical sampling. I hope it's less intimidating or overwhelming than the first time we saw this graphic organizer. To summarize, I will have to say, or to answer to the question of, so how many samples should I have? For qualitative sampling, it really doesn't matter. Number is irrelevant. All what I want to do is to find saturation. So I'm going to have my purposeful sampling, and I'm going to find whoever fits into that purposeful sampling until my people or my places are saturated. That's enough. This is all what I want right now. For quantitative sampling, it's all about statistical validity. If I can generalize this data and I can get a result of good statistics, then I am good to go. And I added a link here for you to clarify, for those of you who are not familiar with the meaning of statistical or statistic results. In quantitative, it's all about statistical results, and here this link will help you to understand more about what is the meaning or what is the expectation of statistical data. We have, we can use graphs, we can talk about averages and ratios. There are many kinds of statistics that you want to educate yourself about in order to be able to write statistical data. In research, you can use, in quantitative research, there are many softwares that can help you with this, either Excel sheets or SPSS is a software that can do these statistics for you. Here, if you're not familiar with statistical data, then you can help yourself with reading this to familiarize yourself more with statistics. There are graph data analysis, there are line charts data analysis, or pie charts data analysis. You can look at averages showing mean, median, and mode, and you can also describe your data based on range, variance, and standard deviation. These are the key terminology and your key statistical terminology for data analysis and reporting data results. If you want to do quantitative or maybe a mixed method, which is another PowerPoint that I'm going to post after this one, if you decide to do that, then you want to familiarize yourself with these terminologies, and then familiarize yourself with softwares like SPSS as in Sam, PSS, or Excel sheet. These are the two softwares that you can use as a quantitative researcher to help you find this data, or you can do it manually. Indeed, that's something, if you're strong in math and you're strong in data generation, then you can absolutely use this too. All right, so this brings us to the final slide of this slideshow, and I hope that this was helpful to help you understand more about sampling. And I'm going to post this video with the separate PowerPoint under this week's work, and you will find the file of proposal steps also included under this week, and we'll show you where does sampling go, and it's usually when you talk about the data collection and before you talk about the data analysis. So I'm going to include this in quantitative and qualitative in all designs for each one of them, just to make sure that you know the location of the order of things in your final paper. There's another video that I'm going to post for you on mixed methods. So I'm going to do this momentarily. All right, I hope you enjoyed this one, and for much more to come.